Hey guys, so we have to revisit the Kim Sae-ron, Kim Soo-hyun ongoing controversy. There was a lot of moving parts that if you hadn't been keeping up on your own, a lot has passed by in one day. So if this is your first time to this series on the ongoing scandal that is embroiling Korea's top paid actor Kim Soo-hyun and the late actress Kim Sae-ron, who you might have known from the hit movie Ajashi or from The Man from Nowhere, there was a new press conference that just happened in Korea where the family's representatives presented more evidence about the relationship between Kim Soo-hyun and their late daughter. Now, of course, this evidence focuses on the beginning of their relationship, the fact that this was an underage relationship on Kim Se-ron's part, essentially starting when she's in the third grade of middle school. But the main issue, actually, if you get lost in all of the parts of the drama, of, like all the different episodes, but you're just like, what is this series about? Essentially, right now, the fight it's not even, I can't believe we're even saying this, but it's not even explicitly about whether it was right or wrong that Kim Soo-hyun had been dating Kim Se-ron when she was a minor. The actual debate that both sides are actively fighting, not like, what people think is right or wrong, what they're actively fighting is how much of a role did Kim Soo-hyun have on the mental health of Kim Se-ron that led her to end her own life. So that is the biggest question. Kim Soo-hyun is essentially trying to throw out a lot of evidence and witnesses and testimonies saying that, no, I wasn't the reason that she had problems. And Kim Se-ron's family is saying, no, you are the main reason that she had all of these problems. Why each side is doing it, whether they're right for doing it, whether the cover-up is bigger than the crime, whether there's actual other people who have latched onto this controversy in order to get their own revenge against each other, all of those things can be true as well. But if you're looking at the main game board of what we're trying to follow, what is the actual connecting through line that we can have all of these other subplots around, is essentially, is Kim Soo-hyun to blame for Kim Se-ron's demise? If you're essentially taking one step back and you're not saying well, of course it's her fault, because she chose to do it. So that is where we're at, and we're going to uncover this, but I might have to, again, parse this video out in multiple easy to digest sections. So of course, gut check, where do I feel at this point? Did Kim Soo-hyun seem to have a relationship when Kim Se-ron was underage? I think the latest press conference shows really strong evidence that yes, that was the case. But did it also have an effect on whether she was so mentally strained that she made her decision? The press conference also presented very strong evidence in that case. Did Kim Soo-hyun's side in the past few days, when we were, focused on New Jeans Land, present also a good case that, no, it's not just me. She had other things going on in her life, other people stressing her out. He also made a good case. Whether those parts of the case are 100% true, completely fabricated, or somewhere in the middle, that's the difficult part of this situation. So let's just go over what exactly happened, and you see the evidence that was presented by Mr. Karo. So this was a press conference that focused on, I think, the calls for just give us the incontrovertible evidence that he did date Kim Sae-ron starting when she was only 15 years old, and prove it with the content of the messages and the metadata. So I think the actual KakaoTalk messages, it was very KakaoTalk heavy in terms of the evidence. That still needs to be verified as real, not just photoshopped, creations. But that just needs to be verified by whoever, the public, or because this is not going to court per se. But if it is part of the court case against Lee Jin-ho, then perhaps that would be a good way to just wrap it up all together and say like, okay, this is what the court deems as a real KakaoTalk message, verified, and that the contents are true. So they focused in on messages that first establish that the dating started when she was only 15. Kim Sae-ron was born on July 31st, the year 2000, and then the messages, the majority of the messages that established the beginning, but it wasn't even like the exact start of the relationship even, was June 2016. So she wasn't yet 16 years old, but from the messages you can see it wasn't as if like they met on that day. It looked like they had been meeting for a while, like, when you be sleeping in somebody's bed. I mean, some people do that on the first day, but, in this situation, I don't think it was the first day that they met. So the representatives, I just want to read out the statement that they made on behalf of the family. This is Poo Ji-seok, representative attorney of the law firm Puyu, acting as the legal representative for the bereaved family of the late Kim Sae-ron. As the family is currently experiencing severe anxiety and is unable to appear in public, I'm here to convey their position on their behalf. Recently, the private life of the late Kim Sae-ron has been recklessly exposed almost daily, leading to baseless speculation and criticism directed at the bereaved family. As a result, the family is suffering from extreme anxiety as well as severe mental and physical distress. The reason for holding this press conference today is to inform you of the difficulties the family is facing and to earnestly request that the criticism directed at them cease. This is not an occasion to reveal the reasons why the late Kim Sae-ron chose to end her own life. The reason the family initially had no choice but to disclose the fact that Kim Soo-hyun had been in a relationship with the late Kim Sae-ron when she was a minor was to file a lawsuit against YouTuber Lee Jin-ho, who circulated false information, belittled and mocked the late Kim Sae-ron, ultimately driving her to her death. So again, the lawsuit right now or the actual filing, it's more of a police filing, is against Lee Jin-ho, who is being accused of being in the back pocket of Kim Soo-hyun and strategically reported on Kim Sae-ron in a negative light during key moments when it looked like Kim Soo-hyun was trying to bring Kim Sae-ron down so she's not going to be blabbing her mouth, or even if she did blab her mouth, nobody would take her seriously because she looks like a crazy Delulu person. And so that is why Lee Jin-ho is such at this heart of this case, but then also it's clever legal maneuvering, like, oh yeah, we can expose all this like crazy stuff about Kim Soo-hyun because it has to, be part of the evidence against this lawsuit. Moving on. However, what the family received in return was Kim Soo-hyun lying that he had never been in a relationship with her. Even after evidence proving their relationship was revealed, he did not offer a single word of apology. Instead, he is now lying again, stating that their relationship only began after she became an adult. Additionally, for reasons unknown, YouTuber Lee Jin-ho and other individuals involved in the case have been recklessly exposing the private life of the late Kim Sae-ron and spreading false information about her. In response, the bereaved family wishes to put an end to the controversy by presenting evidence. To be clear, this is not a place to reveal the reasons behind the late Kim Sae-ron's decision to end her own life. The family would like to express that after today's press conference, they do not wish to engage in any further meaningless disputes over the truth. So the family has long claimed that they only want to have acknowledgement for the relationship and an apology. They want to have some feeling of healing and justice, they say. Kim Soo-hyun early on had offered to meet with the family and they had rejected that request, which sort of built up the credibility that they weren't in it for the money. How do I feel about that now? We'll go into this later, maybe in a different part. I'm a little bit less convinced of that. However, what they were focusing on, which I think was good with this press conference, is just to say and prove we're not lying about the start of the relationship, that she was a minor, and this went on for a long time. And that is essentially what they wanted to try to basically clear up and resolve first. So let's go over some of the text messages, and it's essentially between Kim Soo-hyun and Kim Sae-ron from June 2016. So this is about a month before her 16th birthday. She would be in third year of middle school, and she was just talking about how she wasn't feeling well. She had to get an IV drip, and Kim Soo-hyun was being very attentive there. And they're talking about, the filming and, when she'll be back home. And it was these text messages are all very lovey-dovey. So, we're basically trying to see, is this more than just, well, first of all, it's not a work colleague situation because they weren't working on the film together. So that was that. Is it sort of like, oh, this is just a family friend or some kind of acquaintance? It wasn't that either. This is very lovey-dovey. And so it's also showing that when she said kind of like a kiss kind of emoticon, Kim Soo-hyun said, do it for real later, haha, kiss me or skinship later. And he said, is this also forbidden? And she said, no, it's not forbidden. So it really looks like this is the grooming stage, or the stage where it looks like Kim Sae-ron thinks that she is in control about how far she can let the physical intimacy go in their relationship with Kim Soo-hyun, but it makes it look very creepy on Kim Soo-hyun's part, where it looks like he's kind of being like that patient predator, just taking a step here, is this okay? And it looks like they're playing around with the word basically forbidden. She's trying to say nope, can't do that, can't do that. And so she's like, she's not giving all the milk away for free right at the beginning. And so this is just over the course of a few days though. And then it's like, oh, do you miss me? Do you not miss me? And Kim Soo-hyun is like, why would you think that I wouldn't miss you? And she's like, I don't know. If you don't say it, I wouldn't know. And then Kim Soo-hyun says, oh, you're so cute because you're asking questions like that. This, I think, is to establish that Kim Soo-hyun is definitely older and he's in a different mindset of Kim Sae-ron, so young, who needs this validation that she is being missed, that she is being thought about, and that she is completely dependent on that affirmation from this older guy who thinks that it's kind of cute because, yeah, most people, when you're like an adult, are not going to be that sort of needy about somebody, saying that you miss them, although plenty of adults still like that. But it does show that there is this age dynamic where she can be more manipulated and more affected by this situation than him. Then we have this message about kissing and holding you while I'm sleeping. And then it looks like they are intimating about when are we going to consummate this? And it looks like almost, I mean, if you look at it from a harsh perspective, it looks like a negotiation. A year, 3 years? Well, what about 6 months? And then, but it was still sort of kind of like, coy, lovey-dovey. And then Kim Sae-ron was just saying like, look, I'll do it whenever I want to. There's no such thing as like some sort of like time horizon. So those were the messages that showed like, even at 15, that it looks like, if you interpret it, the way that it looks, to me at least, they were already kind of negotiating like the complete physical intimacy when she was 15. It doesn't really show like, at least these text messages, whether they did it or not, but they do, at least it does show that there is physical intimacy in a bed, and for a prolonged period of time where you're sleeping, and also kissing, and that there is this kind of like I miss you type of negotiation. So that in and of itself, I think, shows that there's a relationship. So we're not talking about whether this is like the legal, age of consent for a specific physical intimacy act. That is wrapped up in it, in the sense that people, whether it's legal or not, will kind of cancel Kim Soo-hyun. Some people say like, well, because it was legal, it doesn't matter. But that's actually not the actual real debate, even though it has real consequences to how people will react to this situation. But the actual thing that they're trying to establish, and even both sides are worried about, is how deep of a relationship and serious of a relationship was this. And the age factor is relevant because it's a much deeper and much more imbalanced power dynamic if she was 16 years old. I believe there's a 12-year age dynamic. So if this was a relationship between like a 60-year-old and a 72-year-old that just started, second, third, fourth chapter of their life, that 12-year difference is going to be almost meaningless, in the sense of how much does this have a significant reaction towards mental health, and how much of an effect Kim Soo-hyun's relationship and how he acted in that relationship have an effect on her final decision. Of course, legally, I don't think you can actually say like, oh, well, you were a jerk, and then, that led to her taking her life. So we're not even in this whole thing about like going to court or asking a judge to decide. This is more about the family wanting an apology for this situation. I will get into it a little bit later, but it seems like there is definitely a possibility where this is more than just about an apology. But let's stick to this press conference. So then the press conference then brings the timeline back to last year, 2024, when she was getting these letters from Kim Soo-hyun to pay up what you owe us for covering your bills and cancellation fees for your drunk driving incident. And she was texting her friend. So this shows like a lot of like her mental state and what she actually thought the letter was about, and how she viewed it in relation to Kim Soo-hyun. So one text message says like, they said that they were going to get in touch, but they didn't, and they just sent this. Where is this coming from? This is the friend, saying like, this, what the heck is going on? And then she said, basically, it's telling me to just kill myself, I guess. And so that already showed that, she was being affected by this pressure, this added pressure of being totally threatened with this civil and criminal lawsuit over this like $700,000, paying back to Kim Soo-hyun's agency. And she said like, they screwed me over in the contract. Usually in this kind of a case, the agency has to bear 30% and I have to bear 70%, but they got me to sign this contract that would make me bear 100% of the cost. So originally, apparently, this was all about the DUI situation, but the big part of this $700,000 was essentially because of the Netflix show Bloodhounds that she had to be really edited down in. And initially the production company wanted $7 million. And apparently she went to the production company, said she was so sorry, and she negotiated it down to $700,000. So the production company should really be thankful for that. And Sae-ron reiterates that they're not answering her calls, messages, anything. And then she does link it to, she doesn't say like, oh, well, I guess all is fair in business. And this wasn't, this was just a brief relationship. She didn't say any of that. She said the opposite. She said, how can, somebody I dated for 6 years do this to me? My first love, my world has fallen apart. So she is going through a very deep psychological turmoil. And yes, a lot of people say like, well, she broke up in 2021. It's 3 years later. How did she be over it? Well, she's like kind of recovering from a very like a divorce type of situation where it can take like a decade to get over, or if that, maybe even more. This was not like a Taylor Swift breakup song that she was going through. So it's definitely tied to the relationship, according to these text messages, that the money pressure part is tied to also the relationship part, and both having a really strong sense of betrayal, but also danger and threat and hopelessness. And being trapped in, all at the age of 24 at the max, when she was going through this, until it hasn't even been 2 months. It was like a month and a half ago where she left this world. So then further evidence that Gold Medalist was not playing fair. So remember when she had posted that cheek-to-cheek photo and then taken it down, a lot of that reason why she stopped, because the second part of posting that picture was going to be like, telling it all, spilling all the beans. But Gold Medalist had contacted her and said that, hey, we're going to, let the lawsuit go. And, this is not anything serious. And then so Sae-ron stopped her plan to reveal everything. But then she said in this message to her friend that, the price of this, though, is that I get labeled a crazy girl to the public. And so at least, she was kind of saying like, the friend was like, oh, that's great, though. At least, this issue is not going to be totally, that they're going to drop it. Well, the next day, she got another threatening letter saying like, pay up. And then after that, totally ghosted by the company. So it looks like the company got what it wanted. It had Kim Sae-ron make herself look crazy through her own hands. And then they were able to ruin her credibility if ever she did spill the beans a little bit later that she was in a relationship with Kim Soo-hyun. Her credibility had been ruined because she had already been now labeled in the media as a crazy person who has a Delulu fantasy relationship with Kim Soo-hyun. So that's what makes it look really shady on Kim Soo-hyun's side. So then the family also released this handwritten letter that Kim Sae-ron had written to Kim Soo-hyun pleading to just talk about this situation. And this was after we've seen those multiple attempts, like texting him from her cousin's phone, trying to call the agency, trying to contact the other artist, trying to contact him directly through all these other mechanisms, posting that photo on Instagram, and like nothing was working. So early April, she went with her friend to try to deliver a handwritten letter to Kim Soo-hyun's apartment, I believe at Galleria Foray. Super uber, totally like exclusive celeb infested place. So they said that even though she's a celebrity herself, right, that the security wouldn't let her put even like drop this note in his mailbox. So they went, home empty-handed, or I guess, with the envelope still in their hands, and so she wasn't able to deliver that. And then at the press conference, they not only released that photo of the letter, they also showed what happened to Kim Sae-ron through her own struggle and devices of basically doing harm to herself. And they said that, they have the metadata to prove that the picture was from April 3rd, 2024. So before this press conference, they only released like a snippet of the letter, but they just decided to release the whole thing at the press conference. And so let's go over what the letter said. Hi, this is Ronnie. You're doing well, right? I'm writing this to clear up some misunderstandings between us. I couldn't reach anyone at the company and was scared of a lawsuit. I'm still sorry for posting the photo, though. It was a photo I posted hoping the company would get in touch. I'm sorry for causing you harm. I find the people at Gold Medalist very scary and uncomfortable. After leaving the company, no one answers me when I try contacting them. I don't want to make things difficult for you. I sincerely wish you happiness. Looking back, the time we dated was about 5 to 6 years. Since you are my first and last love, I hope you won't avoid me. Seeing you avoid me and trying to not even acknowledge me makes all the time we spent together feel empty and futile. Let's just be on good terms, no more, no less, but we can at least be supportive of each other. Do you hate me that much? Why? If even this letter doesn't reach you, our relationship will really be over forever. I think I'd be sad then. I won't interfere in your life anymore, so please don't hate me. I hope there will be a day when we can see each other again while smiling. 010, and then they blocked out the phone number. This is my number. Please respond if you read the letter. Since there is no other way to convey my sincerity, I hope your address is still the same. I hope you, not Robe, are reading this. I'm cheering on your work and love life and hope you will be happy, and I hope our time together will not be remembered negatively for each other. So she wasn't able to send this letter, but I guess in some karmic way of the universe, maybe it was good that the letter wasn't delivered, because now we have more evidence of essentially exactly how she felt at the time, and have it corroborated with written evidence to the friend who has been saying this verbally. Now, who is Robe? Basically, that is a blood relation. So it's either cousins or brothers from another mother of Kim Soo-hyun. He was the director of Real, that movie that was very controversial with Kim Soo-hyun, with a lot of nakedness. And it looks like definitely at least he is Kim Soo-hyun's a gatekeeper. And so she really wanted to establish contact with him, but the press conference, the lawyers were saying like, look, here's another piece of evidence that she had been in a relationship with him for 5 to 6 years. And then also the heartbreaking part of like, you are my first and last love. And it seemed like when she said like, I think if you don't read this letter, our relationship will be really over forever, and she'd be sad then. So even in 2024, even though she's officially broken up with Kim Soo-hyun, physically broken up, you can still see that like somebody still doesn't necessarily break up in their heart or their mind, their soul. And so even if you're saying like, oh well, like they broke up, it can still very much weigh on a person, not necessarily the fault of Kim Soo-hyun, but definitely a big strain on her mentally. And even though it was 2024, and people say like, well, she should get over it. A week after this situation with the letter and her, hospitalization, self-harm, she was talking to her friend April 9th and really again complaining about or sobbing about Kim Soo-hyun, saying that my first love and my world has collapsed. Like still collapsed, still collapsing, not like just I'm healing and working myself over it, but still in the thick of everything. And Even the friend was very astute in pointing out, yes, because you dated for 6 years, such a long time, you can't help but feel mixed feelings. See, this is the difference. If it was just like a Taylor Swift song, she'd be like, I hate you now, like you never meant anything, like bye-bye gone. But this is more of like, it's so hard to hate him, even though she wants to hate him, but because she's so entwined, I think, still like in her heart with him, that hating him is essentially like kind of attacking herself. So it's just a very difficult place emotionally, mentally for such a young person to be in. So let's go over the timeline review of what was going on in 2024, especially with the letter, because Kim Soo-hyun's side is trying to essentially distance himself from the impact or significance of this relationship by saying like, oh, it was just so short and it was just when she was an adult, and also distancing themselves from like the role that the letter to of repayment for $700,000 had, saying like, oh, well, she knew that she didn't have to pay that off, and we already took care of that in our accounting, that we weren't expecting that money. However, according to Kim Sae-ron's reactions, that did not look like the case at all. So last year, March 15th, the first payment letter threat. March 24th, after she's trying to contact Kim Soo-hyun, she sends that very painful plea to Kim Soo-hyun via text on her cousin's phone. And then she got contacted, right, by somebody at the agency saying like, hey, stop all this stuff. We'll work it out. Went back on their word the next day by sending her a second payment letter threat and then really ghosting her. And then the shady part of dispatch. Dispatch plays for both, all sides of the fence. Okay, so like, right now they're, uncovering great things. They did uncover great things with the whole New Jeans Mama situation. But I mean, they're in everything, like both sides, So I'm just trying to say, like, just treat them like, the top law firms in Korea. They represent everybody. Sometimes, you're aligned with them. Sometimes you're not. So dispatch contacts Kim Sae-ron for a statement, but it looks like they were trying to kind of fish around, like whether she was going to, actually issue a statement or not. Then we saw her, remember she was trying to write the letter, trying to get into contact. She couldn't even drop a letter off in Kim Soo-hyun's mailbox at his apartment complex, and then she had her self-harm attempt on April 3rd. Then April 4th, the next day after, Dispatch publishes this exclusive about like this scandal that like Kim Sae-ron was at a Texas Hold'em like card game. Gambling, of course, is illegal in Korea. So again, this is sort of like trying to paint her as a wanton woman with like loose morals and cannot be trusted. But I think this whole Texas Hold'em thing, she was not, and apparently she wasn't even playing, but there has been like these sort of clubs that set up these card games, and officially you're not gambling, you're just playing around with like fake tokens and maybe you'll get some prizes. But there has been instances where like that line gets more and more blurred, and like, a prize as a gift certificate, that seems like more like money. So in any event, this looked like it was meant to really harm her reputation. In the timing, again, the lawyers for Kim Sae-ron's family says that it's very suspicious. It looked like it was an organized takedown of Kim Sae-ron to shut her mouth.
1년 정도 걸리냐? 3년? 1년 너무해 6개월? 그러자 김세론 씨가 하고 싶을 때 하고야 그런 거 없어라고 표현하고 있습니다.